on, I'll show you how it works. First, you turn the time circuits on. This readout tells you where you're going, this one tells you where you are, and this one tells you where you've been. Say you want to see the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Or you want to witness the birth of Christ. Or, here's an important one we could visit, September 14th, 2008.
And Mark. Oh man, you're so beautiful. Gosh, you're beautiful.
I think this church is I would recommend it to anybody. If you truly want to find Christ and have that relationship with Him, I think Mountain View's the place where you can do that.
I could still be waiting now. Could you let me stay for now? I think you got away somehow. Did you get away somehow? I think you got away somehow. Did you get away somehow? Way somehow, way somehow. Best way out is always. I think you got away somehow. Did you get away somehow?
Wow, has it really been that long? Things certainly have changed. I remember when this was farmland as far as the eye could see. Old man Peabody had this dream of breeding llamas right here.
Wow, Doc, that's heavy. What does it all mean? I mean, where do we go next?
Well, good morning, everybody. I hope you are excited about celebrating with us. That video was awesome. Patrick did a great job of just putting together just quick clips of the last 17 years. Did everyone catch little Sarah? Did you see her up there? Yeah. I mean, she's still little, but I mean, she was young then. Anyway, hey, if we have not met, my name is Shane, and I am the lead pastor at MVF Church. And you're here on a kind of a different week if you're new, because this, like Bruce said, is our anniversary Sunday. And we are going to just be getting into what God has done, which we kind of just shown you. But we're also going to talk about for the future. That God has brought us here for the future. And, you know, it's obvious we borrowed this theme from Back to the Future. You know, when I was growing up, Back to the Future was probably one of the greatest movies of the 80s, you know, but definitely one of the most popular ones. And I loved it. But, you know, have you ever gone back and watched some of the classic movies of the 80s and noticed, like, they seem really slow? You know, it's funny because I'll go back and I'll watch some of these old movies sometimes and I'm like, why, this seems slower than it was. And, you know, one of the reasons for that is, I don't know if you're aware, but amount of time that they spent on a camera angle back then was much longer than it is now. Test it sometime. Take an older movie at kind of the same style versus a new movie made in the last 3 years, and use a stopwatch and test how long they'll stay on the same camera angle back in the 80s and 90s versus they do now. It's so much shorter. And the reason for that is because we have shorter attention spans. And they are just doing what they can to cater to that. You know, I used to say that we are living in a microwave culture, and I realize I think microwaves take too long now. You know, we are in an instant culture. We want everything right now. You know, we scroll, and if something doesn't get our attention within a couple seconds, like, we are moving on. We have just this short attention spans. We not only do we scroll and expect things to change, we want things now for us, right? I mean, while you're scrolling, and get off of that, hit the Amazon app, order whatever you want, and you expect it delivered tomorrow at your door. Sometimes we want it tonight. And we have just become this completely, a culture that is just completely immersed in convenience and expecting instant results. You know, everything is at our fingertips. We can get anything we want delivered to us and made exactly the way we want it. We get it in the color we want, the style we want, the flavor we want. And we've become a people who expect everything to just happen right away. And yet, you know, that's exactly opposite of how God works. God doesn't work in the right away. God doesn't do things instantaneously like we want to see them. You know, in fact, do a study on the word suddenly in the Bible. Go through and read any place you see where it says God did something suddenly or something really happened suddenly. You will find that word suddenly comes with long years of cultivation and preparation and sacrifices that were made to get to that place and that point. You know, when Moses put his staff into the Red Sea and the Red Sea parted, I'm sure for those Egyptians that were buried and drowned in that ocean, for those Egyptian soldiers, it looked like something that was happening suddenly. But God had been preparing. He prepared Moses for 40 years to become this man of God, this leader. He'd prepared the Israelites to get to a place where they were ready to be released and freed out of the hands of the Egyptians. We see in the walls of Jericho falling. You know, they suddenly fell when they blew the trumpets, but not before 40 years of wandering the deserts and preparing to enter into the promised land. We see on the day of Pentecost, the Bible says that suddenly the apostles were filled with the Spirit and began to speak in tongues so that all the different people from different areas were hearing the gospel in their language. And when they heard the gospel in their language, it says that thousands came to know Jesus that day. And it appeared to be something that was sudden, but we know that the apostles spent 3 years walking with Jesus, learning from Jesus, and then experiencing his death, his burial, his resurrection, and then finally his ascension. And then even then, they had to go into a period of waiting before this suddenly would happen. We want things suddenly, but that's not how God works. God calls us to patience. He calls us to faithfulness. He calls us to obedience so that he can work in us. He can prepare the soil of our hearts so that he can do great things. Last week, I talked a little bit about how there have been people who made great sacrifices for MVF Church to get to the place that it's at right now. People who were patient and faithful. Many of those people, some of them are here still today, but many of them never actually got to experience the blessings of where we are right now. See, a lot of people would look at MVF Church and think, well, man, they've experienced some sudden growth. But none of this happened without the sacrifices and faithfulness of people over the years. See, I don't believe it was sudden. I believe that God was moving in people's hearts, and people were being called to faithfulness and obedience and sacrifices that would get us to this place. Many people who made those, that were obedient and were making those sacrifices, that will never get to sit in this building, never get to experience the growth that we've had. Some of them knew when they were making the sacrifices, they were never even going to be a part of this church family, but they believed in making sacrifices for the future of God's kingdom. I don't believe that any of this has happened in just these 3 years. I think it came with a lot of work. It came about through years of people's faithfulness. And in a world that wants instant results, we have to remember that God calls us to be faithful. God calls us to be patient. God calls us to be obedient. And when we practice these things, that's when we see the power of God at work. And it's not in our timing, but it's in His. When I think of this theme of for the future, I can't help but think of Bible stories like Abraham. You know, if you think about Abraham, he was promised a promise for the future, right? That he would be the father of a great nation. But in his faithfulness, what was the fruit that he experienced? Isaac, one son. That's all he experienced in his lifetime. I think of the faithfulness of Moses, who led the children of Israel out of Egypt into the desert, only to wander the desert for 40 years, even though the promised land was promised. He never was the one to experience it, but he was faithful. I think of David and how David was faithful to God, and he established the kingdom of Israel as a united nation. And he wanted so badly to build God's temple. And he prepared the people for it, and he actually collected resources for it. And yet, he never got to see the temple. That was Solomon who ended up building the temple. I think of Paul, who gave his life to the mission of Christ. He gave his life to sharing the gospel throughout the Roman kingdom. And yet never got to really see the gospel flourish in Rome like it did after his death. I'm reminded of Hebrews chapter 11. In Hebrews chapter 11, we oftentimes call that the Hall of Faith chapter. And the whole chapter goes through all these stories of great men and women of faith and all that they did to live in faith. And yet it tells us, and all these, verse 39, and all these, though commended through their faith, did not receive what was promised. See, they were faithful and they were obedient, but they didn't get to experience the promise of Christ. We get to experience that fruit. See, all this reminds me that God is not in a hurry. His timing is not our timing, and yet we are called to be faithful for the future. See, God, I believe, has been on the move, and God has done great things through MVF Church and in MVF Church. And God will, I believe, continue to do that if we have people who are committed and faithful and obedient throughout the future. But we can't get comfortable. One of the worst things a church can do is get comfortable. Because, quite frankly, if you just throughout history look at God's people are really bad at being comfortable. When we are comfortable, we are very poor disciples. When we are comfortable, we do not stay on mission. We get distracted. We start fighting with each other. We start getting nitpicky. And a lot the same way soldiers are, right? I mean, ask any military leaders and they'll tell you that idle time breeds conflict with soldiers. See, when soldiers aren't focused on the mission, they start nitpicking at each other. They start competing, and they start turning their energy against one another because they don't have a mission. So many military leaders will talk about how it's discipline, training, and a sense of shared mission that keeps units cohesive. See, the camaraderie that they have depends on a common purpose. And when soldiers know that why they're doing what they're doing and what they're working towards, they stay united. But without that, the small differences seem to get in the way. And I believe God's people are the same. With God's people, if we don't keep our eyes on the mission, we start to fight with each other. And instead of focusing our energies on the true enemy, we destroy each other. So, I want to talk about the mission today. Now, before we get too into it, I want to talk for just a couple minutes about us as individuals before we get into the mission of the church overall. See, if you're here and you call yourself a part of MVF Church, you're a part of this church body. You're a part of this church family. And as someone who is a part of a family, see, I don't know about you, we have parties at our house a lot. And when the guests come, we don't ask anything of them. When a guest comes to our house, we're like, hey, just enjoy. You know, and sometimes a guest will volunteer to take a trash can out or do something. Great, thank you for doing that. But we don't expect it. But guess what my whole family is expected to do when we have that? The whole family is expected to participate. The whole family is expected to contribute to something. So we each as individuals are called to contribute to the mission that God has us on. And that's why we constantly are encouraging you to take those steps, to get involved in service, to sign up on the service thing, to understand our engagement pathway, you know, that we want you to be here, a part of the worship service, but then we want you to take that next step into growing, some way of growing in your faith, and then we want you through that growth to figure out where God's purpose is specifically for you individually and live that out. And that's why we offer the resources to help you get there. And we're constantly talking about, you know, the one Pathways 101 class, Pathways 201 class to help you grow in those things. We talk about the Essentials of Faith class that we're starting next week. So that if you're someone who's like, well, I got to understand my faith more first. Well, we've got a class for it. We've got a way to help you with it. We talk about groups, right? In just a little over a week, we're starting our Wednesday nights. Our Wednesday night focused, and we're going to have stuff for the children, stuff for the youth, but we're going to have groups for men and women where you can grow and be engaged in faith conversations and encouraged and challenged in your walk. Because we want to see you grow. We want to see you be someone who understands what it means to contribute to part of the church family and the mission. But most importantly, we want to see you take steps of faith moving forward in your walk. Because here's what all of you have to understand. Every single one of us someday is going to stand before God. And we're all going to have to answer for our life. No one's going to get to go, hey, God, you know, I understand you wanted me to grow more, but, you know, Pastor Shane, he didn't talk about this that much. You know, or, you know, I understand, but, you know, they kept having classes, but you know what? Those classes were an inconvenient time for me, God. Like, it's not going to work. You have to stand in front of God and make an account. And so we want you to be able to take those steps. Now, what is it we, as a church, are stepping forward into? That we want you to be a part of, that we're calling you to be a part of. See, I'm reminded of Acts chapter 1, we talked about last week. In Acts chapter 1, verse 8, Jesus gave his apostles their charge, if you will. This is right before he ascends to heaven. And he gives them their charge to say, hey, this is what you are to be about. And see, as all churches, this is kind of like the mission of all churches. Yet we have specific ways in which we believe God has called us to do it. What is that? He says it, verse 8, but you will receive power when the Holy Spirit comes on you so that you can sit in pews, drink coffee, and hang out and relax. No, right? That's not at all what it says. You have the Holy Spirit come upon you. You will have that power, and you will be my witnesses in Jerusalem and all Judea, Samaria, and to the end of the earth. See, this is the mission of all churches. that we are to be witnesses for Christ. We are to share the gospel. And so what I want to talk about is how do we believe God has called us? What specific ways and areas has God called us as MVF Church to do this? Because every church has little nuances in which they do it. And you as individuals will all have your own little nuances and ways that you do it. But we want you to understand like where we as a church see God putting us. So what I want to do is break this up into 3 places. He says Jerusalem. That to us, he's talking about, to them, he was talking to their local area. For us, that would be the Hebrew Valley. He says Judea and Samaria. For us, we believe that would be the intermountain area. Utah, parts of Idaho, and Wyoming. This area that it really needs a much stronger gospel presence. And then, of course, the world. And we'll talk about that. So I'm just going to share with you, the rest of our time here, I'm just going to share with you how we see those 3 places and how we believe God is calling MVF Church. Let's start with Jerusalem, or the Hebrew Valley. See, I believe God has given us an ideal location to have a major impact on the new high school. See, we're gonna put a lot into the community in other ways and other places, but we are in a unique spot for Iron Horse High. I know, I'm not thrilled with the name. But we are in it's not it? They changed it? What is it? Oh, Deer Creek. Okay, change that. Change the slide. I'll wait. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. No, I didn't. I literally looked it up on the internet, and that was the one I saw. So, okay. I didn't like it, but I was like, whatever. Okay. But we are in a unique spot for the new high school. We'll just call it that, okay? I mean, I challenge you in Utah to find a church that is next door to a high school, let alone surrounded by one. We are literally surrounded by the new school. Now, does that mean we're going to abandon Wasatch High? No. We're still going to be involved. My daughter goes to Wasatch High. That's where she's going to be. We love that school. However, God has just given us this unique opportunity for this campus to have a very specific ministry. I don't know if you're all aware, but there's a thing called release time education. It's actually a national thing. But Utah specifically has made the most use of release time education because the LDS Church has a very strong thing that they do called seminary, where they literally, the kids, so with release time education, kids get out of school for one of the classes, and they literally get, on school time, they get trained in their faith. So we are going to have our own seminary. We're going to have our own Bible training. Yeah, that's exciting. And you know, there might be some parents who go, well, Shane, you don't understand. My kid's on the track to college, and they're going to have to take all those classes. I'm going to tell you right now, if you're sending your kid to college, I can't implore you enough to send them to this. Because I promise you, if you want them to be prepared for college, one of the main things they need to be prepared for is to have a strong foundation of their faith. And that's what this is going to do. It's going to give us time to really pour into more of a disciple-oriented teaching. So we're going to have that. But we have this cafe. We love the cafe, and it's for you guys to use, which incidentally, I don't know if you know, but it is open now where you can get drinks and everything. We don't make a big deal of it. But the main reason that we built that was for this high school. It's going to be open on the weekdays at lunchtime, and where our hope is before school and after school, because we want to be a place where the kids feel comfortable coming and spending time. And we want to, not just with the kids, also with faculty and staff. We want to be able to minister to them. We want to be able to have an after-school program, something where kids can come and get some more growth and have fellowship. We want to be involved with the sporting events and maybe have after-sporting events outreaches here at the church. So we are going to put a lot of our community effort into this. We're going to basically have a community of 2,000 to 3,000 people that we are going to have a very special ability to focus on. Another part of that is that's high school, so that's kind of a part of our family ministry. We're at a place where we are ready to expand our family ministries. We've been very blessed to have Xana on our team in the last year and a half. And she is building a great team in our children's ministry. But what that's done is it's helped us to get to a place where we can build a stronger family ministry as a whole. So this year we began the process of having our children's ministry, our youth ministry, our men's ministry, and our women's ministry not work as separate silos, but say, hey, how can we begin to work together to be a stronger force for families? And we just began to scratch the surface this year, but this is going to be a focus of ours. We want to minister to families. One of the things we did this year was family camp, and it was a great success. We're going to continue to do that, but we're going to build on that. We're going to have quarterly family days here at MVF Church, and in that we're going to invite the children to come and worship with us on a Sunday, but then after that, after church, the second service, we'll have a lunch, and we invite first service people to come back, and we'll have a lunch after the second service, and then the kids will have a program, and we're going to have 1.5 to 2 hour marriage and family seminars. We'll invite the community for that part, but there's a lot of families, a lot of marriages in our church that are struggling. That are just kind of squeezing by. They're surviving, they're not thriving. And we want to help marriages thrive. So there'll be seminars quarterly on parenting and marriage and communication and all of those kinds of things from a godly and biblical perspective. And so that's going to be something we unveil as we get into the next year. And then in 2027, our goal is to turn that other building into a preschool that will be available during the week. A Christian preschool that people can come and have their kids have a Christian preschool to be at during work, or if they want just that break during the day. So that's an exciting thing because there's a huge need for that in our community. And then finally, here in this campus, one of the big things is that we are in the works of starting to develop a Spanish-speaking ministry. I don't know if you're aware, but 11% of our valley is Spanish-speaking as their primary language. And since I've been here, I've been praying that we would be able to do this, but we've never really had any kind of core people within the congregation I felt like we could build it on. But now that is starting to happen. So our goal by 2026 is to at least start a Spanish-speaking ministry, and that will open the doors to us to reach a whole new demographic that we have not been touching. Now, these are just a few of the things. And obviously, for these things to happen, one of the things that has to happen is we've got to do more work on our campus. We got it done, so that we could live in it, if you will, but it's not finished. Well, we want this to be a very welcoming place when people drive on to this campus. And so there's still landscaping that needs to be done. For that building to be open for a preschool, there's construction that needs to be done within it. With the high school, we're going to love these high schoolers, but we're still going to put security cameras up. Because I was a high schooler that people loved. And so we need to invest in security in the building. So there's more stuff that we've got to invest in for the future, because we want this to be a strong place for the future. So we'll be talking about that as we get into this. And obviously these are just a few of the things, but these are some key things. The next area I would consider Judea. When we talk about Judea, we talk about this intermountain area. And we've always had a heart for some of the small rural towns in the intermountain area. There are a lot of towns of anywhere from 2,000 to 6,000 or 7,000 that have almost zero gospel presence. And we want to see a gospel presence in those places. And in those places, they're small towns that are very hard for people to start congregations, because they just have so little to work with. And the ones that have started are barely surviving usually. And we want to help them go from surviving to thriving. And so we had, at one point, we had two campuses. We had the Camas campus and we had the Gateway campus. The Camas campus, Pastor Mike, who most of you have been around long, know Mike Smith. The rest of you, he preached here a few months ago. He's now the pastor of Centerpoint Church. So we lost him to Centerpoint, which was with a blessing. We loved him. We prayed over him. We were super excited for him. Wasn't a bad thing. But he moved on, and then almost just a couple months after that, COVID hit. And so the Camas campus did not survive those two hits. It was very difficult for it. But the Gateway campus is thriving. And so we adopted the Gateway campus. It was a church that was barely surviving. It was, they lost their pastor. They were running like 40 people. They had no resources. And since then, we've adopted them as a campus, and now they're running well over 100 people. They're baptizing people. They have outreach ministries. They did the same Halloween trunk-or-treat outreach that we did last year, and they had over 500 people at it. And in a community of 6,000. So they kicked our butts. But one of the biggest and exciting things there is, so they were in a small building, 1,900 square feet for the whole church, which basically meant they had a little worship center, they had bathrooms, and they had this little attic space that was smaller, I promise you, than most of your walk-in closets that they use for the children. That was it. And the building was falling apart. It was in a horrible location. But last year, we were able to help them purchase a beautiful 5,000 square foot building, and they're renovating it right now. And so I want you guys to watch the video just so you can share
I'm walking up to the new building, and I wanted to give you a perspective of the amazing location this new building is in. You can probably hear the car wash right behind me. Right over here is Main Street. I use a Taco Time, and right behind that Taco Time is the junior high school. We are in the central location of Lyman. I mean, you can see how bustling it is. For Wyoming, this is busy. But you can see that the new building is a Wells Fargo building. We were able to purchase this Wells Fargo building for an amazing price. So we're going to walk up here to the new building and entrance, and we'll start showing you around, and I'll talk to Carl about what is going on with the building. Okay, well, now I'm right in front of the building with Pastor Carl. Carl, this is super exciting, but why don't you tell us a couple of things you're most excited about in regards to the location?
Man, the location couldn't be better. We're literally a block away from a school that we hope to do a lunch program with, and they have off-campus lunches. So I'm just looking forward to that as a prospect. Plus, we're right off of Main Street, and we're right next to residential, so really couldn't be better as far as positioning goes, location-wise.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at houses right now. So that is awesome. Okay, and then what about, give us a comparison of the square footage of the old building versus the square footage of the new building.
So the old building in all was maybe 2,000 square feet. This one is just under 5,000. So really we're doubling and a half our size, and I mean, we couldn't be happier with the amount of space that we were going to have for our kids and everything else.
All right, very cool. Let's go inside. All right, well, hey, as we're walking into this worship center, I wanted to real quick just show you the lobby. As you saw at the old building, they didn't have a lobby. Now they've got this awesome lobby. They can have coffee areas, sign-up areas, places for people to talk and not interrupt the service. So this is awesome. All right, well, we are in the worship center. This is exciting, Carl. You guys have done such an awesome job compared to when we had the teller stands, like I think where we're standing, right?
Yep.
So this is really cool. But tell us, what's the square footage of this room, and how many people do you think we can fit in here?
So this one is just under 1,600 square feet. And so we're really hoping that like 100 comfortably can fit in here. Whereas, we were pushing it with the other building to feel like we could have space. This will provide a lot of space for us to grow into.
Okay, that is really awesome. So really comfort-wise, you can fit about 40 more people comfortably versus the other building. Okay, anything else you're excited about with this?
Yeah, just the transformation of what this was. I mean, we had a vault here. I know a lot of people wanted to keep it.
Oh, that's right. Massive vault right there.
Yep, and now it's going to be our stage area. So there's just a lot of great things that we're hoping to have here, events, Our Fall Fest is going to be amazing. Last year we had about 500 people. We're hoping to really dive into that as our grand opening for the community. And there's a lot of excitement. Every day people are coming by, people that we don't know, that just want to know how the building's coming. So
That's awesome. I'm so looking forward to it. I do have to say, I wish we could have figured out a way to keep that vacuum suction thing for the drive.
Me too.
That would have been cool.
Drive-by prayer.
Well, hey, we're walking over to the kids area, but on the way, remember I showed you the hallway kitchen in the old building? Here they actually have a full kitchen. It actually goes out here to a fellowship area that they're going to be able to have. It's so awesome. But let's go take a look at the kids area. All right, well, now we're standing in what will be the check-in area for the kids ministry, which is pretty cool, your own check-in area. It literally looks like any one of these rooms, Carl, is bigger than that little attic space, plus you don't hit your head. What are you excited about with the kids area?
Definitely excited to have the same amount of space for our kids that we had for our entire sanctuary. We have enough space to divide them into like actual age groups. So we have 3 classrooms here and one really big one behind all of this. Super excited that we get to meet kids where they're at and have space for them to move around.
That is so cool. I'm so looking forward to what you guys do with the kids ministry, because you guys have a lot of kids coming. Am I
Yes.
right? But how many do you have? Just give me an estimate.
So we have 40-ish, kids on a Sunday, and that's it. As we're just meeting once, one Sunday, one time a Sunday. Yeah.
Okay, so about 40 kids. So this is already too small. We got to find another building. All right, this is awesome.
All right, well, it's super exciting. And you guys need to understand, a lot of that is because of the faithfulness of you guys. You provide that for this small town in many ways. And there's so much more we could talk about up there. And our hope is that in the next couple of years that we will be able to look for another place that needs a gospel presence that we can go to. The final is the world, and I'm not going to spend much time here. But I will share with you, our goal is to bring the gospel to the world. We do that through supporting other organizations, through supporting the EFCA. There's ways that we do that. However, we also have Honduras. And we've been partnered with a church in Honduras for 10 years, helping them with their sponsorship program. Many of you sponsor children, and when you do that, you're providing food daily. You're providing medical assistance. You're providing schooling. They get school through that. We also have seniors that we sponsor in the community. This is a very impoverished area outside of San Pedro Sula in the hill country, and we provide resources for them, and we partner with the pastor Mario and his wife Velma. Our hope was to move into something bigger with them. They're very limited in their land. Their entire piece of land is about the size of this room, and so they're very limited. So we were hoping to do that, but over about a 2 or 3 year assessment, we've realized their leadership is not there, and then also Pastor Mario's health is kind of failing. And so we don't think it's a good thing for us to invest a lot. We are going to continue loving them. We're going to continue building into them. We're going to continue supporting the seniors and kids. But that does mean that we're starting to open the door and look and say, okay, where else does God want us? And so we're going to be doing that in the future. Now, obviously, this is not everything. I didn't have time to hit on every single thing, but what I wanted to do is hit on the major things that we are investing in God's kingdom, that we believe God is calling us to. And I want to ask you, are you willing to sacrifice your time, talents, and treasures to invest in what God is doing? Because, we can't do it, but He can. God can move the mountains. He can split the oceans. We can't do it, but the great I Am can. He holds it all in His hands. And He is faithful. He is faithful, and we have seen His faithfulness. And I believe we will continue to see His faithfulness. The last 5 years has given me even greater conviction that the only hope that this world has is Jesus. And now more than ever before in my lifetime, I believe we need to be diligent in our advancement of God's kingdom. We need to trust God and be wholeheartedly committed to the mission of Christ. Because we are not just building for today. We are investing for the future, for the generations yet to come, and for a kingdom that has no end. Will you stand with me and continue as we worship a God who can?